let's have a follow-up discussion on kidney structure and function, but this time let's talk a little bit about what happens when things go wrong and malfunction for any number of reasons. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. If you want to throw something in the tip jar, that information is below in the description box. And also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter in addition to being a YouTube content creator. Part of my 5 to 9 is being a writer, and I have a book project on the way. Before I start this video, if you hear a piano in the background, my neighbor downstairs is a piano instructor. So I don't know if my camera will pick that up, but in case you hear something, that's what that is. That's not a soundtrack or me putting music under this video. And I don't, well, you know, when I create videos, especially these science videos, I actually decide when I'm doing the editing if I'll put music under it, depending upon how dense the video is in terms of content and those kinds of things. I want to thank everyone who supported my last stream, which was which discussed how technology is impacting the workplace going forward and into the future. We talked about the fourth industrial wave. Well, actually, I talked about the fourth industrial wave and the coming technologies that are going to impact the workforce and manufacturing. I'm realizing as a science and technology content creator, the tech stuff is very, very popular. I'm not a tech guy. My background is in the biomedical sciences, as I'll talk about in this video. But I've had some of the tech guys on, and I plan to have them on again. But even when I read content from my blog on the tech stuff, it tends to do really, really well. I don't know if people, I don't know if that means that the biomedical sciences and cancer and the current world event, cell biology, molecular biology, pharmacology, toxicology, I don't know if that means these things are less popular than the tech sector, but as a content creator, I've just been observing that. And I remember years ago, and I'm going to get on because I want to get this video shot and finished. Years ago, I was collaborating with someone, should I say, I interviewed someone whose name I'm not going to mention, but she has a STEM, I'll call it a STEM outreach non-profit. And in our interview, I said that it's easier to take technologies into classrooms to show students how that science works and how that field works, and as opposed to the biological sciences. And she very, very passionately disagreed with me. I disagree. You can teach the biological sciences, and you can take the biological sciences into classrooms just like you can the technologies. Well, it depends on the experiment. It depends on what you want to show students. Anyway, this video. I did a video a little while ago talking about or giving an introduction to kidney structure and function, and there's some place I want to go with that, and there are a lot of aspects I can focus on there, like the loop of Henle, like the I can go even further into the Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus, and I'm going to touch upon some of those things in this video. And I might address those aspects in fine detail in the future, but in this video I want to get into kidney disease and what happens when things malfunction, and what happens when kidneys get injured, and what happens when things go wrong. Because there are a lot of people who die from kidney failure. As I described in the first video, there are a lot of people who are on kidney dialysis for any number of reasons. So it's an organ, well, all of our organs are important, but it's an organ that if it gets damaged, or if it becomes non-functional, it can have some very, very serious ramifications. So let's talk a little bit about what happens when things go wrong with our kidneys. So before I get into what types of things can go wrong with the kidneys, I'm going to go back to my introductory video, and I want to shore up something that I realized I should have shored up when I shot that video. So if you watched that video, and I hope you did, you'll see that I stated that just like the lungs work hand in hand with the heart, the kidneys work hand in hand with the heart as well. And I'm going to talk about that some more later in this video. But I showed that there's, in terms of the lung, the heart pumps oxygen poor and carbon dioxide rich blood to the lung, and then gas exchange takes place in the terminal airways, and then that oxygen rich and carbon dioxide poor blood goes to the heart for distribution to the rest of the body. Well, in our kidney diagram, I didn't realize this until after I shot the video, and I tried to reshoot it and insert it, but one of the lights was off. So anyway, if you look at this diagram, interestingly, what you can see is that you have blood going into the nephron that needs to be filtered and cleaned, and that blood is oxygen rich. Okay, and then you have blood coming out of the nephron that's cleaned and filtered, but it's oxygen poor. And I thought that was important because, number one, you have the filtration process going on. I described how our kidneys are filters, but also there are live cells in our kidneys as well. So those cells need oxygen, and they need to release carbon dioxide. So I thought it was very cool, and I thought it was very, very important to point that out, that you have blood going in that needs to be filtered, and it's oxygen rich and carbon dioxide poor, and then you have clean blood leaving the kidneys that is oxygen poor and carbon dioxide rich. And if you recall correctly from Cell Biology 101, I discussed this in the first video, all the cells in our body, no matter what cell type it is, must undergo cellular respiration. So that's taking sugar and converting that sugar to ATP using, well, sugar and oxygen, and then the byproducts are water and carbon dioxide. But I wanted to just revisit that and shore that up before jumping into my discussion about kidney injury and what kinds of things can go wrong. So as I talk about the rest of what I want to talk about in this video, and as you go back, and if you haven't, please take a look at the previous video before this one. When you think about the kidneys, I want you to think about plumbing. The reason I thought about that is because during the last video, I think I made the comment that when the kidneys are working and functioning, you can't feel them beating, you can't feel them doing what they do aside from the formation of urine. So you have flow, just like in your house. You have water coming to your kitchen sink, and you have water going down that kitchen sink after you wash your dishes. Your shower, you have water coming in and then going out through the drain of your bathtub. Your kitchen sink, you have water coming in through the spout, whatever you want to call it, and you have water going out through the drain in your kitchen sink. So you have fluid moving. There's a pump somewhere that's pumping that water through. Well, in our bodies, that pump is our heart. So heart function is, or should I say, heart function impacts kidney function. And so as I was reading some things leading up to this video, I wondered what were some of the causes of kidney disease. And I just want to say that, going back to my plumbing analogy, recall that things go bad in your home when there's something wrong with your plumbing. If your sink stops up, if your tub won't drain. That happened to me earlier this week, and fortunately there was an easy solution to it. But when things stop up or when things don't flow the way they're supposed to, problems happen. So in my research, I found that one of the causes of kidney disease is actually hypertension and high blood pressure and or compromised cardiac function. And all I will say about that is based upon what I told you about the oxygen rich and oxygen poor blood going to and from the kidneys, to and from, like, you know what I'm trying to say. If you have less blood getting to the kidneys, that's less oxygen getting to the kidneys. So those cells can arguably starve and suffer. So, and also the blood that needs to get filtered won't get filtered. So I just wanted to introduce that kind of parable / analogy about plumbing, because when you talk about the kidneys, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about blood going somewhere and coming back out, and then the pump is the heart, and the heart has a large impact on kidney function, because a major part of that involves delivery of the blood. And you know what? This gives me a good segue into what we call the glomerular filtration rate. And I'm going to be very, very short when I talk about this. Okay, I'm going to say a few brief words about what we call the glomerular filtration rate. So if you go back to the first video, and I'm going to show the diagram right here, you have blood going to the kidneys and then branching off down to what we call the afferent arteriole that goes into the glomerulus, which is enclosed in the Bowman's capsule, and then you have the efferent arteriole going to form a capillary bed around the loop of Henle, and then that goes to back to the general circulation, because that's where the blood gets filtered and cleaned, and electrolytes and ions either go back into circulation or go back out. But if you recall, in that glomerulus, that's where the filtration of proteins takes place. There's a cutoff. So proteins of above that cutoff will stay in circulation, and then smaller proteins and or waste products or molecules like sugar will go into the Bowman's capsule to form a filtrate, which eventually gives rise to the urine. Well, you can determine that glomerular filtration rate by measuring the amount of a given molecule or waste product in the circulation of the blood, or in the blood. Pull the blood and you measure the concentration there, and then you can measure the amount of that same compound or waste product in the urine. You take the ratio of the two over time, and that gives you your glomerular filtration rate. And that gives healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, technicians, pharmacists, that gives them an indication as to how well your kidneys are functioning. And again, that's all a a function of not only that filtration process taking place right there in the nephron, but also it's a function of your cardiovascular activity as well, so your heart. So all these things work together. And if you look at, I'm going to show the units of the glomerular filtration rate here, but when you think about a rate, you're thinking about something happening over time, the ratio of something happening over time, and it's typically expressed as a fraction. So that's the glomerular filtration rate. So now let's talk about a couple of things that can go wrong with the kidneys. So for these next two items, I'm going to leave links in the description box below in case those of you viewing this want to read up on these some more, because this can get very, very long and intensive. But I just want to give, for the sake of my YouTube channel and my audience, I just want to give I want to talk about this in a way that's understandable by a general audience. Just not get too far in the weeds, but I want to give you guys just enough. So I'm going to talk about a condition called proteinuria. Proteinuria. And I'm thinking back to the University of Michigan, right there, during my studies in the Department of Pharmacology. And one of the professors who has since passed away, I remember him going on and on and on about one day he went into the restroom and he saw someone's urination right there in the stall. And it looked frothy or cloudy. And he said this particular professor was a medical doctor by training, though he was in the research field. He said whoever went in there before me might be pretty sick, because it looked like he had a lot of protein coming out in his urine. So that's proteinuria. So again, going back to the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule or the Bowman space, there's a filtration process going on in there. So you're trying to keep certain things, red blood cells, albumin, antibodies. We're trying to keep those things in circulation, but we're trying to get rid of the waste products. So this particular individual and individuals who have proteinuria, the proteins in circulation are actually going through and they're emptying out into the Bowman space, into the filtrate, and they're being discarded by the body through the urine. So that's an indicator that something is wrong with the person's kidneys, their kidney structure, which is leading to this injury. Though it's the reason this has occurred can be for any number of reasons, but I will, in a general sense, refer back to what I said earlier in this video, that things like heart disease and hypertension and high blood pressure can ultimately lead to this type of thing. So that's proteinuria. That's when proteins are getting through into the filtrate and being discarded by the body via urine. So urine from individuals who are suffering from this, it's very thick, it's frothy. That might not be the right word, but in some instances it may have a reddish color, which indicates that red blood cells are going out through the urine. So that's proteinuria. That's my first example of what can go wrong in terms of kidney structure and function. The second condition I want to talk about is immunoglobulin A nephropathy. So what happens with, and I'm going to leave links below so you can read some more for yourselves, but for the sake of this video, I want to communicate that IgA nephropathy, well, Ig, immunoglobulin, that deals with antibodies. That deals with our body's antibodies. That deals with our body's mechanisms for identifying and fighting off pathogens, contagions, and disease. But in this instance, for this particular disease state, the immunoglobulin, for whatever reason, and as I read earlier, and it said that scientists don't know why exactly this occurs, the the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule, that space, that space becomes overwhelmed with this immunoglobulin A, which you have a heavy chain, a light chain, and those kinds of things. But the point is that going back to plumbing and filtration, the way that space is supposed to work and what it's designed for is to filter out. It's designed to keep things in that we need, proteins that we need, and it's designed to filter out water, aqueous wastes, and other small molecules. But if that gets clogged up, going back to my plumbing analogy, then you're going to get a person who's getting very, very sick because they can't filter out liquid, they can't filter out fluid, so they can't regulate their own fluid volume. But also you're going to get the buildup of wastes in circulation, which will cause an overall sickness to that person. So that's immunoglobulin A nephropathy. And for any of these disease states, I just named 2, and I'm certain there are others. I'm not a nephrologist, so I'm not. There are nephrologists who could talk for whole hours on kidney structure and function. However, for individuals like this who become sick with these diseases and others, the only means of treatment becomes either, a transplant or dialysis, which, as I described in the first video, I've heard is very painful and laborious. Dialysis is the artificial filtration of one's blood, where one has to go to a center to have it done. So there are only 2 options for someone who has a very, very severe kidney disease. That's either dialysis or a transplant. I'm going to close this by saying that there are also, well, as a pharmacologist and a toxicologist, the medical community also knows that there are medications that are designed for therapeutic effect and therapeutic benefit. There are medications that can be damaging to the kidneys as well. And as I was reading up for this video, the one class, and I'm sure that there are others, but the one that stands out in my mind are the NSAIDs, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And in the reading that I did, I saw that patients should only take NSAIDs for, I think, about 10 days. And going beyond that duration can increase the propensity or likelihood of kidney injury. So some of the medications that are designed to help us with sickness and to help make us well, if they're taken in too large a quantity, they can actually cause injury. So that's what I wanted to say in this video. I made the introductory video, and I might go and talk about some of the more specific aspects of kidney function. But I'm going a certain place with this, and I want to talk about kidney transplants and what's involved in that, because this is something that a lot of members of our society are dealing with, and a lot of people die from kidney disease and kidney injury and kidney malfunction. So I just wanted to record this video. Please let me know if you have any comments or questions in the description box below. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to throw something in the tip jar. That information is below in the description box. Also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. And I think that's it. Look out for the next one and look out for future content on this channel. I want to thank everyone who has supported Big Discussions 76 Science and Technology up to this point. And I think I'll wrap up there. So everyone, be safe out there. Take care of your health. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.